Hi there, and welcome to Let's Slow Down, a podcast for all of you who feel tired and stressed from this overwhelming world. Here we'll have fun, inspiring conversations about living life on our own terms and explore ways to ease the pace of our modern world, because life really is good when you're relaxed enough to be present for it. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Stolting, and I welcome you to this space where I hope to inspire you to slow down, because life is too short to let it go by in a blur. So take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Let's Slow Down podcast. I am so excited to have my good friend Gina Roof here today. She's from Simply Balanced with Gina, and she's a nutrition and wellness health coach, as well as a fitness instructor, wife, mom of 3. She's my lifelong friend. And I joke that she's our resident health expert here on the podcast. I was looking back before this episode today, and it is her 5th appearance on the show. So welcome back, Gina.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I always love an opportunity to be here.
Thank you so much for giving us your time. I know that you're busy these days doing lots of different things in the health world as well as personally. So, for anyone who are new listeners that are new to you, why don't we start with a little background on your story and how you got into the health space?
Sure. So, yeah, as Anne Marie said, I am a nutrition and wellness health coach. I was certified about almost 11 years ago now through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I was actually an elementary school teacher at the time, but nutrition was always something that pulled at me, and I knew I just had to pursue it. And it really was life changing for me because I unlearned so much and relearned so much. And really, it gave me the opportunity to become super intuitive with myself and take my health back into my own hands. So I loved inspiring other people, working with others to help them really get down to the most foundational and probably boring aspects of health, but the ones that really can truly just impact your overall life, your long-term health, and just help you foster helpful habits that are supportive for you.
It's oftentimes I find like the simpler things, the stuff that's like, well, yeah, obviously, but
Mhm.
we forget about them or they get overshadowed by everything else or we're too busy to make them a priority. And they're the ones that make the biggest difference. So I love that you mentioned like unlearning and relearning these new habits because, especially as we get older, I think a lot of us fall into these ruts. We don't even realize that
Right.
it's happening.
Mhm.
And we follow a lot of these like shoulds and we tell ourselves these certain
Mhm.
things and we're just going, right? We're just going
Yeah.
along with it. We stop listening to our
Right.
intuition quite a bit. And for me, with the slowing down bit, that has been huge because I realized I was kind of pushing through or pushing past or trying to drown out these messages that were coming up. And our bodies are very, very powerful and they're very smart. And I think if we just tune into them more, as you said, take our
Yeah.
health back into our own hands, we can cure a lot of our quote unquote health issues really on our own. Like we already have, I
Yeah.
think, a lot of what we need. We
You
just
have the
don't,
tools you need. Yeah.
yeah, we just don't let them come through. And that's why I always love talking to you because you make it very easy to understand and also easy to then go and do. Because sometimes there's so many, I mean, with social media, there's so many health
Oh,
messages out there and there's so many extremes. And you feel like,
yes.
well, like if I have one bite of sugar, then I just ruined everything.
Mhm.
Or if I don't get the exact amount of sleep each night, then I'm a mess.
Right.
And we always
It's
go
so
back to like my dad, old school doctor, everything in moderation, but it's so true.
right. Yeah.
And
Well,
just
there's so
keep things
much
simple.
temptation and, like you said, extremes in the wellness world. So, what I always say, when you find yourself straying or chasing that new shiny object or that pill that promises, or that magic wand, come back to the basics because it is the boring stuff that has the most impact. And it's hard, and it's true. We get pulled from things, but when you really step back, like if you're not feeling well, when you really step back and look at your habits, sometimes like the answer is there. We just don't want to always be honest with ourselves.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, we don't always wanna hear it or see
Yeah.
it, but it's so true, and the sleep stuff has been I mean, I've been fascinated with this for years, and I think
for as long as I can remember, I've had sleep issues. Like, even as a kid, my parents would joke that
Mhm.
I'd be up, like, watching Johnny Carson with them because I would never fall asleep, and I'd be up watching the late night shows, and I don't know, I would just was like that for a really long time, and eventually, in my, like, young adulthood, it caught up to me, and I realized,
Mhm.
"Oh, I don't actually function that well without," I used to think I just don't need a lot of sleep. I really just don't
Right.
need a lot of sleep, but definitely isn't the case, and it's probably not necessarily the case for anybody. I'm sure we all have different ideal amounts for our own
Mhm.
bodies, but I have just noticed so much, and I see it we all see it so much clearer in our children,
Yeah.
especially the little ones. Like, if they don't get enough sleep, they can't function,
Right.
And then you see the big ones like us, and you're like, "Oh, actually, I'm not functioning that well either." It comes across not exactly as like a temper tantrum, but it comes out in
Oh,
different ways, and a lot of
yeah.
times it is like, it's just, "Oh, I just need to get a good night's sleep, and
Right.
I'll think about it again tomorrow, and I'll just have a whole
Yeah.
different perspective." So,
Yeah. Everything's harder when you're tired.
yes.
That's
Yes. Yes. And at least now sometimes, not always, but I'll catch myself at night and I'm like, "I just need to turn
I
this
just
off, turn my mind
done
off,
for the
and go
day.
to sleep, and
Yeah.
I'll think about it tomorrow." Like, this is not productive.
Right. Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
so
Yeah.
I had been doing all the health and wellness episodes, and we were talking about trying to find a sleep expert, and then you reached out to me and you're like, "I took a whole continuing ed course on sleep." So I said, "Perfect. Let's have you on. Let's dive into this topic." And today I have asked you to just share some insights from the course that you took. I mean, sleep is a major player in wellness. So
Yeah.
if you can just kind of talk us through just some reasons why we know we need to
Yeah.
get more sleep, but like why
Okay.
and how? Like, how can we
Yeah.
do it? Especially those busy people who have the busy minds and the busy worlds and who are trying to slow down, but maybe by the time their head hits the pillow, they're still
Mhm.
going. They're
Yeah.
kind of turning things over about their day and having trouble getting to sleep. So,
Right. Wired but tired. Yeah, for
yes,
sure.
yes, exactly. So, I guess, like, let's start. Like, why is sleep so vital to our overall health and well being?
Okay. Yeah. So I actually love talking about sleep. I do so much with like cooking and nutrition, and I love that. I think that is so important. But listen, your sleep is a major factor in your overall health. Like I said, everything is harder when you're tired. And if you want to feel better and be more in control of your choices, of your stress, of your eating habits, you need to work on your sleep. The problem is, we know we want to sleep better, but again, it's being honest with yourself. Sometimes we don't want to commit to doing the things that we need to do to sleep better. However, it is simpler than you think. It really can be much simpler than you think. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to start, we'll talk about some of the benefits of sleep. Obviously, it improves our energy, our mood, but even like physically, so or like biologically, like inside of our bodies, it's what regulates our hormone levels. It regulates our hunger hormones. It helps our metabolism. It helps our cellular function. It facilitates muscle recovery, even like detoxification. Like we're doing all these things when we sleep is literally our body's chance to slow down and heal, right? But it even like benefits like our cognitive function. So a lot like sleep is so, so important for our brain, our memory, problem solving, decision making, our creativity, our production, like everything that we do, our brain really, really benefits from sleep. And then our emotional functioning too. So it's physical, it's mental, and it's emotional because, like you said, like sometimes when you're just so fired up from the day and you're like, I'm done, like sleep does help us to process our emotions and to kind of restore. So sometimes you wake up even for a moment just feeling a little bit better. And then the stress of the day might kick in. But
Yes.
yeah, like when you're day after day getting insufficient sleep, it's gonna lower your immunity, so your immune system's down. We talked about your cognitive function, but your energy is down. So when your energy is low, like I said, everything's harder, but also you're more irritable. You experience more anxiety. It actually does mess up I'm not going to go deeply into this, but like your hunger hormone is ghrelin, which helps us with cravings. Even your insulin levels are off. So if you find that you're turning to food for energy and things like, obviously we need food for energy, but you're having a lot of cravings throughout the day, especially for sugar, it could be tied to insufficient sleep. So those are just some of the obvious things with
Yeah. It's
why
so
it's so important.
interesting. So interesting, and I found that I oftentimes realize that at night, I need to just go to bed and
Yeah.
except I'm like, "Oh, I kinda want a little bit
Mhm.
of dessert now," and it's
Yeah.
9:30, and it's n the time to start eating chocolate chips, which is what I did last night, actually, so
Mhm. Yeah.
but, yeah, I think it's like your body's looking for, like, a fast little bit of energy, right?
Energy.
Because it's
Yeah.
tired.
Yeah,
So
there's patterns throughout the day when your body is gonna chase that energy, and a lot of times it's, like, maybe mid-morning right before lunch, then it's maybe, like, mid-afternoon when you hit that slump, and then again at night. But instead of, like, at that point, maybe it's like, okay, sleep instead of a snack. And if you
yeah,
do want the sweet treat, we've talked about this before, have it closer to your dinner
right.
when your body's working to already breaking down the food and stuff. But yeah, because even your blood sugar, so we'll talk about, like, I'll actually just say it now, like, you wanna actually front load your sleep. And what I mean by that is figure out what's going on in the morning, because how you start your day really is going to dictate a lot of how the rest of the day plays out. So, making sure from the start of the day you're eating to help stabilize your blood sugar. So, you are getting enough protein and fiber throughout the day for all of your meals so that you're not having those like blood sugar spikes, because that is going to still be at play later on at night, and that can affect your quality of sleep. So thinking of how you start your day and the meals that you're having throughout the day can really actually be a factor in your quality of sleep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm,
I know. Interesting, right?
very interesting. I was telling you right before we hit record that another one of our friends, Ronnie Filipados Fernandez, who's been on a couple times as well, her and I do this little Bible reading, and we do it every morning and on all different topics. And this one is about balance in our lives. And today happened to be all about sleep and
Ugh.
rest, which I thought was so funny since I was planning to speak with you today too. And there was a quote in there by someone named Norval Hayes, who's helped people get out of like negative thoughts
Mhm.
through recognizing the importance of rest. And I just thought it was so interesting because they said that like basically when you're tired, it breeds negativity and you're pessimistic and
Mhm.
your whole outlook, your whole mindset. And I'm trying to pull up the quote exactly because it's
Yeah.
worth sharing. Yeah, tired people lean toward problems. Rested people lean toward answers.
Ooh.
And they say he's helped many people get out of depression and or negativity just by getting them to take a break and rest. And I thought that was really powerful because how often do we lean toward the problem? We focus on it. I know
Yeah.
I do that all the time. You kind of harp on those things rather than like when you're rested and you're energized
Mhm.
and you're thinking clearly, you can approach an issue in your life with, okay, what's the answer? What am I trying to create here? What's the end goal rather than just harping on the problem.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's like the mindset, like you said, the emotional and the mental piece of it is so important
Yeah. Well,
and
for
really
sure.
impactful. Yeah.
But yeah, we do need like and I think it was one of your podcasts. I listened to it 2 or 3 times. I think it was like Simplicity Parenting. He was brilliant, but it's true. Our
Mhm.
life is absorb, 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 and we don't give our body a chance to digest and get into that parasympathetic nervous system where we can actually rest and restore and repair. And sleep is a time for when that should be happening. So we need that downtime. Like physically, mentally, emotionally need downtime.
Yes. Yeah. Our brains need a break. Our
Yes.
body needs a break,
Mhm.
and our brains do too. And before I want to make sure that I don't forget to ask you this, and I don't know if there's truly an answer, but how much sleep do we actually need? Like, I know there's a range, but
Right. Yeah.
what do you think about this? And the quality versus the quantity too, because I
Yeah.
know sometimes, like,
Mhm.
we have poor sleep, and it doesn't matter how
Yeah.
many hours of the poor sleep you're getting, right?
Yeah. This was actually so the course that I took, it kind of broke sleep down into 5 things, which is the quantity, the quality, the architecture, which we're not going to talk about today. That's like the cyclical pattern of sleeping, your timing or consistency, and then the supportive habits, which I call sleep hygiene, which we're really going to focus on. It is personal. And also, your sleep needs are going to shift. Just as your body is always constantly changing and evolving, your sleep needs will change and evolve, right? So, obviously, little kids need what, like 11, like they need like crazy amounts of sleep because their
Yeah.
bodies are growing and changing. And then it's kind of like what season you're in. Like when you're a teen 20s, like sleep tomorrow, but tonight go crazy kind of thing, like
Exactly,
Bruno Mars
exactly.
says. Like, and then maybe you have babies or toddlers and sleep is like, I'll sleep when I'm lucky, when I get the chance, and you're just in a perpetual state of being tired. I feel like I'm kind of in my sweet spot now because my kids are and like I have an almost 6-year-old and I have an 11-year-old. So I'm not a night like I don't have to be waiting like in a few years when I have teenagers, my whole night is going to shift. But now I really have trained myself to kind of wind down with them and get in bed with them, right? But also as females, like entering even perimenopause, like your sleep needs might increase because like your body is changing, but it's harder to sleep. Men typically can get away with a little bit less sleep. So yeah, you do want to aim for 7 to 9 hours. Some people can function on 6 hours. It really is going to be when you can help your sleep a little bit and your body naturally tires at a certain time and you have like an internal alarm clock, like
Mhm.
that is probably your range. And for me, I mean, I've obviously been super focused on my sleep for the past like 3 years. I am 8 hours and like 15 minutes. Like if I can get 8 hours and 15 minutes, it is like exactly what I need. So it's hard to say for the exact person, but it is
Mhm.
somewhere between 7 to 9. 9, I feel like is a little bit more unrealistic. Some people thrive on 6. But when you can get a little bit more consistent with the timing of when you're going to bed and waking, that is something that's super important. Trying to have a little bit of consistency around that.
Yes,
Your body
I've
will
heard that.
naturally, like, which I'll talk about circadian rhythm in a little bit, but that was a great question. But again, it is quality over quantity because you can have 9 hours of crappy sleep and
Mhm.
6 hours of really great sleep and it makes all the difference. So when we talk about some of the sleep hygiene, I'll talk about how you can hopefully improve the quality of your sleep.
Definitely. I think
Yeah.
we can all use that.
So yeah, I mean, do you like can jump right in. Do you want to
Yeah,
talk
go
about
ahead.
like
Go
so
ahead.
let's say sleep hygiene, like it's a funny kind of a funny word, but it's really just like a set of practices and habits that promote quality sleep and your overall sleep health. So let's kind of break it down. I was saying how I like to start in the morning. And this was fascinating to me. I have always been a fan of the sun. I love sunshine. But when I learned the benefits of sunlight and how you can actually use it to help improve your overall health, but even your sleep. So sunlight affects sleep in so many ways. First of all, what it does is it helps to sync up our circadian rhythm. So I don't want to just assume that anyone knows what circadian rhythm means. Circadian rhythm is basically like your wake sleep cycle. It's very connected to the sunlight. Our bodies are very connected to nature, but we just kind of get pulled. But it's our body has its own internal clock, right? So certain periods throughout the day, like different hormones are released and whatnot. We have peaks of alertness, we have peaks of downtime. And you want to be very connected to your circadian rhythm. So the best way to do that is through connecting to the sun. So I always tell my clients, and if you're following my Instagram page, like I always say sunlight before blue light. If you can get into the habit of when you wake up, before looking at your phone, maybe just tap it to see that there's no emergencies. Looking out your window, and I don't mean like obviously safely. Like you're not, I never want to look directly at the sun, but just gazing out your window and getting natural sunlight on your eyes, even for 30 seconds, because this will regulate your circadian rhythm. It will boost your morning cortisol at the right time. Like we always think cortisol is a bad thing. We don't want to be in a high state of cortisol, but we need cortisol throughout the day. It helps with alertness. It helps with our energy levels, our energy crashes. But it also, when it's released at the right time, is really important because if you're reaching for your phone, you're actually tricking your brain. Your brain sees the light from your phone and it thinks it's an afternoon. So your cortisol spikes like abnormally almost. Whereas when you gaze out the window, your brain starts to understand that, oh, it's 6:30 a.m., it's 7 a.m. And that cascade of hormones is able to be released in a realistic way, in a beneficial way. It also increases melatonin production for later at night. Like that actually starts earlier in the day. Like we
That's
think of
interesting.
melatonin as the nighttime hormone, but sunlight throughout the day can actually improve that. And sunlight has been shown to provide deeper, more restorative sleep. So I think that's like really, really important. Another thing I have to just quickly mention is we've become like a society that like as soon as we step out of the house, we put sunglasses on our face. We're constantly shielding our eyes from natural sunlight. They're the best accessory. There's all these cute sunglasses now. And listen, I love a cute pair of sunglasses just as much as the next gal. But if you could give yourself even 5 to 10 minutes before putting the sunglasses on. Now, it's different if you're on the beach and the sand and water reflecting out on you, if you're standing on a blacktop or whatever you're doing. I don't know. If you're a roofer, like, and you're in the sun, like, obviously you need to protect your eyes. However, giving yourself a little bit of sunshine, because sunglasses actually block some of those key wavelengths that we need to help with that hormonal cascade. So really fascinating. So that's number one. Number two, we talked really quickly about breaking your fast with adequate protein and fiber to stabilize the blood sugar throughout the day. You really want to really minimize spikes in blood sugar for so many reasons. But today, obviously, we're talking about sleep. It will help your sleep. And then if you can incorporate movement earlier in the day, believe it or not, when you get movement in the day, like, it tires your body. Your body will, like, I remember being an athlete in high school, like, sometimes you're just so tired, like, it tires your body in a good way. So that's the morning. Don't underestimate the power of a good morning routine. There's like books about your morning.
Oh,
It's,
yeah. I'm so fascinated by it. I've read a ton of like the Miracle Morning. I've done episodes about that and I've
yeah,
followed it too. And it's so helpful and it doesn't have to be long. Like we
no,
make it seem like it all has to be these intricate routines and all these things to
no,
follow, but it can be like 5 minutes and just like you're
yeah.
saying, just waking up in a more healthy way and making sure you're eating something. That was one other thing I want to ask you. You said like high protein. So it's important to eat breakfast, but
Mhm.
it's also important to eat the right breakfast, right? So,
Right.
like, lots of protein in there, and I think did you tell me once it's like 3 eggs or something is like the amount of protein?
So, yeah, I try not to get caught up in like exact measurements because
Mhm.
I, growing up, like, could get obsessive with stuff like that, and it really didn't benefit me. Like, I had more stress around food than the food. It was like the stress was worse than the food itself. But females typically, like, even if you can get around 20 to 30 grams per meal, not everyone needs to eat their body weight in protein, but 20 to 30 grams should be sufficient. But so 3 eggs is about 20 grams of protein.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps to just have, like, a mental image
And
of, like,
yeah,
how
so
much
like a
it is.
fist-sized piece of meat is
Mhm.
probably anywhere from like 25 to 30 grams. A cup of yogurt is about 20 grams. Cottage cheese might be like 25 grams, something like that. Beans are a good source of protein. Adding in things like ground flax, like, you can up your protein in easier ways. Like, you don't have
Right.
to wake up and eat eggs and sausage every
Right.
morning. A smoothie. So
Okay, good to know, yeah, and
yeah.
you're supposed to do that before your coffee, right?
Well, that's a real personal thing. If you struggle with anxiety or GI issues from coffee, like, if, like, for me, it was like really becoming a problem because I was drinking so much coffee and not eating and then I was like jittery and anxious and things like that. It was really bothering my stomach, but it's not a bad idea. But again, that's it's not a blanket statement for everyone, I
Okay,
would say. But definitely, I would venture to say it's probably more important what you break your fast with than when, because not everyone is hungry within the first half hour of eating. And that's okay.
right,
Like, we should be, we probably should be. But if you're not, like, so I'll usually have something to hold me over, like with my coffee. Like, I always make baked goods, then I up the protein and then I'll have a little of that with my coffee. And then I'll eat when I'm really hungry at like 10, 10:30 and have like something substantial. So it's really tuning into your listen, like you even said, listening to your body and
yep,
honoring your hunger instead of following the rules. Well, it's breakfast time, so I should eat breakfast, right?
right, yeah, because sometimes you first thing, you really don't feel like eating
Yeah,
a ton of protein or just a ton of food in general.
yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
good to know.
Yeah, so how you start your day though, and then how you end your day. Those are the 2 points. If you can just even become aware and mindful of the start to your day and the end of your day, I feel like things in between will fall into place a little bit more. So, like, things you can be doing in the evening. I have a question for everyone listening. I want you to think in your own life, like, be honest with yourself. What are you doing in the 30 to 60 minutes before your head hits the pillow? Are you sending the message to yourself that it's time to wind down, or is it still like business as usual? And especially, I think, with moms, like, we want the house clean and we're helping with the homework, and then we're like, oh, I'm going to watch an episode of my favorite intense show, and I'm going to scroll on my phone. And we said, well, I need this is my time, like, to scroll, and like, I get that because I do it too, but that could actually be sabotaging our health because we think it's relaxing us. But again, whenever you're looking at that phone and that blue light, it's actually keeping you in that wake state. So I'm not saying like you can't ever, because I do it too. But, one thing that's really helped me is I do replace scrolling at night with reading a book. I've been loving reading lately. But just be aware of what you're doing in those 30 to 60 minutes before bed, and try to be mindful around it. So it could be something as simple as, like, reducing all the overhead lighting in your house. Like, I did have dimmers put in, and that's actually I think it's a really easy thing to do.
Yeah, I love doing
I
that too. I can't
Yeah.
stand, like, the
I
bright lights at night.
Ugh, I become so much more sensitive to
Yep.
it once I turn 40, I think. But, like, reducing overhead lighting, maybe getting into comfy clothes, if you have any time of nighttime routine, like, whatever it is, but really trying to step away from stressful tasks. Put them on a to-do list for tomorrow because chances are, like you even said, you're not even in productive mode at that point to, like, do them efficiently. You
Everything
just
takes way longer
panic.
at that hour, I think.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you're operating from a place of panic and,
Mhm.
stress rather than so, like, try to minimize the stressful tasks and even just be aware of the shows you're watching. Like, my husband loves intense shows, and he'll get in bed and turn on and there's, like, guns shooting in the background, and I'm trying to read, and I'm like, "Oh, this is, like, really impacting my cortisol levels." So, yeah, just be aware of that, and you don't wanna go to bed hungry, but you also wanna allow adequate time to digest. So I think, again, there's a sweet spot there with finding, like, have I eaten enough at dinner for a balanced meal that I'm not gonna be hungry a little bit later? And if I do have a sweet tooth, eating it a little bit closer to dinner, because when you eat too close to bedtime, don't forget, now you're triggering, like, your liver and all your digestive organs to have to work because 'cause they're already ready prepared to help digest overnight, but now you're throwing more on top, like, so
Yes.
but you don't wanna go to bed hungry either.
Well, I find it's like a lot of times lately we've been eating dinner a little bit earlier, just
Uh-huh.
is what's working with our family and everybody's routines. And if I go to bed too late, then it's almost like, okay, it's getting to the point where it's like time for another meal because maybe I ate dinner at
Yeah.
5 o'clock or something. But I'm really, most of the time, I really am just tired. It's just really time to
Mhm.
go to sleep.
Yeah.
And because I don't need another meal, I don't need to fuel myself for more right now. I need to
Yeah.
just wind down. And just being aware of
Yeah.
it, just starting to
Right.
notice, like, what it's telling you, like, when it's coming up and maybe what it means, or
Yeah.
maybe adjusting the dinner time or whatever it might
Mhm.
be to get through to
Or
to the
again, eating enough
floor.
balance at dinner. But
Yep.
I think there's a difference, like, when if you're really hungry, like, you get that gnawing in your stomach, then I would just suggest having, like, a snack that has a little protein in it. So even, like, a little bit of Greek yogurt or, like, a yasso pop, something that maybe is a little bit lower on the sugar, handful of nuts, a little scoop of peanut butter and banana, something like dark cherries and cottage cheese. I don't know, something that's, like, still a little bit sweet, but a little bit of protein as well to tide you over can be helpful. So, yeah.
Very good tip
Yeah.
there.
And then we have to talk about the state of your bedroom too, because that was a big thing that came up in my lecture. And then I've actually listened to a lot of sleep podcasts because, like I said, I've been fascinated. But like I said, you do want to try to aim to be consistent, but your bedroom, especially if you are a type A personality that cannot function in chaos and clutter. And I know you have a lot of people that you interview about clutter. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time because the clutter is mentally draining. It can be very
Yeah,
distracting.
very much
So
so.
maybe and it doesn't take long to clean up your bedroom. It's not like the kids' toys that you're trying to organize. Like,
Right.
if you have unfolded laundry, give yourself those 5 to 10 minutes to get your room a little bit more orderly. If it's because you don't even realize, like, you don't know what your brain is picking up on. You don't even realize, like, you might not even be focused on the clothes, but like part of your brain knows that it's there. So
Oh, yeah.
I would say just take those 5 minutes to just like straight tidy up a bit. Really, really make sure your room is cool. So I think I'm pretty sure the temperature that they recommended in my study was like 65 degrees, which sounds cold.
Yeah,
So
I think I've even heard, like, 58
well,
before.
it's even
Yeah,
like the hot, like, so you want your atmosphere, it doesn't mean you can't put blankets on you, but your
right.
atmospheric pressure, you want your core body temperature actually lower. That is a great way to promote more deep, restful sleep. If you're hot, like, it's so hard to sleep when you're hot, right? So not forgetting to lowering the heat or turning on a fan, something to keep you and your body cool, getting out as much darkness as you can. So if you do fall asleep to the television, or if you keep a hallway light on, or like a nightlight, believe it or not, that could actually be impacting your sleep because we do want darkness. So maybe investing in like a little sleep mask. They're super cheap on Amazon, like something as simple as that. And then quiet. Like, you really, and it's hard because, like, I live on a busy street. My bedroom's actually on the other side of my two girls. Like, they face the busy street. So sometimes I'm like, oh, but making sure cool, dark, calm, and quiet your room. is
I think
really
that one is
important.
so important, so,
Yeah.
so important because I know I personally am, like, very sensitive to all that stuff, and it makes a
Yeah.
huge difference. And I've
Mhm.
pared my room obviously, huge fan of decluttering, but I've pared my room down so much, like,
Mhm.
we don't keep a TV in there, it's
Yeah.
really very minimal, there's just the basics in there, and I do think that it really does promote
Yeah.
better sleep, I do.
And also, then you just reminded me of something. Another thing I learned, our brains are extremely associative. So your bed should be used for very few things. Very few things.
Yep.
So if you find yourself doing a lot of awake tasks in your bed, like some people like work from home and they're like literally sitting in their bed with like a lap desk, or they're eating in bed, or they're watching shows for hours. Not saying you can't watch a show or two, like that's because you're unwinding, but like you watch full on movies with your bed wine, you know what I mean? Like whatever it is. So you want your brain to associate your bed with just rest and sleep. So that's a really important, like, fascinating thing. So
Yeah.
if if you do struggle with staying asleep, I want you to examine that. Like, what else are you doing in your bed or your bedroom? And I know, like with COVID, like some people had to turn their bedroom into an office. Like I just had a conversation with someone, and she's like, "It's just not working for me anymore because your bedroom, you might have to do that, but like understand that like what could be impacting your sleep."
Right.
So that's one thing to examine, because I know people are like, okay, I feel like I'm doing all the right things, but I can't sustain my sleep. So that could be one area. Other areas to look at, we talked about, like, are you perpetually wearing sunglasses or shielding yourself from sunlight? What's the timing of your last cup of caffeine? Like, be honest with yourself,
Mhm.
because caffeine stays in your system. I want to say like a quarter of your caffeine intake stays in your system for like hours. So be mindful by noon, I shouldn't be having, or switch to decaf.
Yep.
Your alcohol consumption.
That's a big
Alcohol, like,
one. That one
puts
has
us to
totally
sleep.
affected my sleep as I've
Oh,
gotten older. And, like,
because
it's not a lot. Like, I could have maybe 1, 2 glasses of wine, and I don't sleep as well.
yeah,
It's
it
crazy.
affects all, like, I could talk for, I'm not gonna go into that, but it does affect your hormones, your lip,
Yep.
like, your everything's working overtime. Alcohol puts you to bed quickly, but it's very disruptive on your
Mhm.
sleep. So be aware of that. We talked about, like, your blood sugar throughout the day. Like, are you eating balanced throughout the day? Are you getting movement in? So be honest about that. And then if you're still having trouble sleeping, because there are, I mean, even me, like, I have days when I have like a lot on my mind.
Yep.
I think some of the best things you can do are to brain dump. So when my mind is racing, like we've talked about, like I'm not going to be productive. I can't do anything at this point. So maybe just getting it off my mind, jotting it down, whether it's in a to-do list or brain dumping, whatever, and put it to the side, get it out of my brain. If you're into meditation, a light sleep meditation can maybe put you to bed, some different breath work. I love doing like where you tense all your muscles. Have you ever tried that? Like you start with your
Mhm.
toes and you work your way up, tensing all the muscles and then releasing, if you're into white noise. But we all have those nights when you're up for what feels like hours and hours and hours and you just can't get to bed. Remove yourself from your bed. I learned this from, again, my sleep course and I'm trying to remember who the doctor was, because again, your body is associative. So remove yourself from your bed, go to a couch, go to another bedroom and find a calm task. Like turn the TV on quiet and watch a relaxing show, read a book. And then when you feel tired, then get back in bed, because
Ah,
you don't
interesting.
want, yeah, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So I've done that a few. I'm lucky my sleep has been much better now, but there was like a few nights when I just could not turn it off. And I got out of bed. I went downstairs and read on the couch.
What are
So
your thoughts Yeah, those are great.
yeah.
Oh, and another one I have a question for you in a minute, but before
Mhm.
I forget, another one that sometimes I'll do this, and I've read there's, like, a ton of benefits from I think it's a yoga pose, actually, like,
Yeah.
laying with
Legs up.
your legs up on the wall and just
Yeah.
laying
Legs
there
up
for
the
a few
wall.
minutes. That is so calming to me, and
Mhm.
sometimes that if I feel like I need something to unwind, I'll do that, and I
Yes.
feel like I do fall asleep easier.
Yes. That's a great pose, and that's actually, like, very beneficial, I think, for females during their cycle as well, because you're not in a full inversion, but it's a very relaxing pose. So, basically, what you would do is you would kinda wiggle your butt up against the wall, and put your legs straight up so you're in, like, an L shape. So, it's called, like, a
Yeah, just lay
pose
there
of that
for a couple
shape.
minutes. I think they
Yeah.
said 5 minutes had, like,
Yeah.
all these crazy benefits, and you just lay there.
Right.
So,
Yes.
that's a good one.
Yeah,
I feel
that's a
like it's
good one. Yep.
very relaxing.
Mhm.
But I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts too on melatonin? I know we should be getting it
Oh,
naturally, but taking
yeah.
melatonin.
That's tricky. I don't love to talk too much about supplements because I really do try to stay in my scope of practice, but I think you have to be careful with melatonin. I think that, well, first of all, any supplements, there are quality brands and there are
Sure.
crappy brands, but also it's knowing the dosage, because the dose makes the poison. Like you could be actually taking too much melatonin, or I think honestly, magnesium is probably even like a better supplement,
Mhm.
like a safer, easier supplement, especially like a glycinate or like a chelate that combines like a few different brands. I personally take magnesium. My husband started taking it. He noticed a big shift in his sleep. But yeah,
Okay.
melatonin's tricky. I'm not saying it's terrible, but it can sometimes have the adverse effect. And it's
Yeah,
hard to know. It's really like exploring your own needs and the amount. So
for sure. Okay,
yeah.
good
But
to know.
again, if you're doing all the things that we talk, like especially with like sunlight in the morning, you also I can't believe I forgot to talk about this sweet spot of sleep. So you see this with like babies and toddlers, they miss their nap and then they're just wired, right? So
Mhm.
like adults have that too. Like, so a lot of times our sweet spot of sleep is before 11 because I think melatonin really kicks in from like 11 to 11:30ish kind of time. So you kind of want to beat that. You want to like be asleep before that. So your melatonin. So there are ways to like kind of biohack your melatonin
Yes.
production
Yep, I've heard that.
without.
They s I something I read, I can't remember, like, the science behind it, but they said the sleep that you get before midnight
Mhm.
is more I don't know, more beneficial or deeper or
Yes.
something than the sleep that we get after midnight. So, like, the
Right.
earlier you can go to bed, the more quality
Yeah.
sleep you get, I guess.
Right, that goes more along with, like, the structure of sleep, but yes, it's fascinating, it really is. That's why, like, we're trying to get to bed before 11, it's hard, but, like, 10:15 is my sweet spot. If I can be asleep by 10:30, it's really great. Like, I wake up I feel different when I wake up,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, so noticing that, knowing what our
yeah.
time is. And you were talking about the consistency. I've read that a million times. I find it in my own sleep schedule as well, like just being really consistent. But what do we do on the weekends?
Yeah,
Because, if you don't have to get up if you're getting up at 5:30 every day for work, fine, you go to bed earlier, but like do we have a little like how much are we going to mess ourselves up if we go to sleep
yeah,
a little bit later and maybe sleep in a little bit later on the weekends? Is that detrimental? Is
yeah.
it better to keep that routine on the weekends if you can? What would you
So
recommend?
yeah, I don't know that I have the right answer for this, but I think you have a little bit of leeway. The problem is a lot of times we're pulled out of our sleep because people, especially when you have a profession where you actually have to go to work, which more and more I think we're going back to that. But you're being pulled out of your sleep maybe at like 5:30, 5:45, even 6 o'clock when you're actually not ready to wake up. So like
Mhm.
that right there is your first like micro stress of the day. It's not allowing your body to have that internal alarm clock because you're being forced by an external alarm clock. Whereas on the weekend, you can sleep a little bit more, but I wouldn't recommend like sleeping the day away either. Like, so I'm fortunate because where I am right now, like making my own schedule, like I get up around 6:45, 7, but my body naturally wakes up. So on the weekends, guess what? I'm up by 7, 7:15 in that same range. So I know it's tough. If you can, yeah, it's hard because like I said, if you're being robbed of the sleep that you really
Right.
need on the weekends, you might be sleeping a little bit more naturally. So, but I wouldn't make it like a 3 hour difference.
Right,
You
right.
know?
So, like, if your normal wake up is 5:30, then sleeping in might be 6:15, just
Yeah,
giving yourself a
yeah.
little bit extra. But yeah, it does it what I find personally, then I kinda just naturally am getting up earlier. Like, you
Hmm.
just get used to a certain
You
wake up
do. Your
time,
body
and
has
it's really
to.
more adjusting that bedtime. Like, okay, if my wake up time's getting earlier, then it's gotta be adjusted on the front end with going to
Yes.
sleep earlier.
Right.
Makes the
Yeah.
biggest
And like
difference.
that shift a
Yeah,
little bit. I know, which is hard because you don't want to give up your downtime at night either. But
exactly. But like
but
you
really
said,
it's
there's different tweaks we can do, and
Mhm.
and if we yes, we need time to unwind and relax, but if we think we're gonna start being productive, like, once all
Yeah.
the kids are in bed and all the dishes have been washed and all the plans have been made for the next day, probably not the time to start something, like,
Right.
big or new and important, right? Save
Exactly.
it. Save it. Brain dump it and do
Use
it in
it.
the morning. You'll do it
Right.
way quicker anyway.
Mhm. Yeah. And there's all these apps now that you can track your peaks throughout the day, like your productive peaks and then downtime. Not a bad thing to listen to. Like if your downtime corresponds with like your lunch hour, maybe just take take a 10 minute. Like I'm not saying take a whole hour, whatever it is. But if you have like a peak moment, like that's when you can do those tasks that are weighing on you in your productivity zone.
Yes. I
Your
think that
sleep is
that's
only going to
really
help.
important.
It's going to make everything easier. So
Yep. And
protect
it's
your
like we don't wanna measure our life on, like, being productive, but we do have to be
Mhm.
productive. Like,
Oh
we
yeah.
all have our things that we need to do, so we might as well just I guess, like, be more efficient with it, right? And
That's
like
well, I think it's working smarter, not harder, like,
yes. Yeah,
recognizing your moments of production and giving yourself grace. There's, like, a thing, and it's like Monday 100%, Tuesday 20%, Wednesday 40%, but you gave 100% of the percentage that you had. You know what I'm saying? Like, some days you don't have like, you give what you can versus always feeling like every single second has to be productive. Like,
right.
meet yourself where you're at, I
So
think.
true. We are not robots. We are not
Yeah.
machines. We use a lot of machines and then we think we're the same way, but we are
Mhm.
not. And like a computer, you turn it on, turn it off. Your phone, you can turn it off.
Yeah.
We
But
can't just turn our bodies
hard.
off. Like there is
It's
that
very hard.
winding down, the gradual. And the same thing with getting up, as you said.
Yeah.
So huge. What else? Any little, just
City
for
trip.
people listening that are like us, they're busy working moms, they've got a lot going on. Like any, you've given us so many tips, but what would be like the one thing you'd say, if you can do anything, try doing this to make your sleep a little bit better, you'll feel a little
Yeah.
bit better?
I'd say start with your morning. Remove the stress around, like, what I should be doing at nighttime and start with your morning. I can't even tell you how much that domino effects into your overall health. So avoiding your phone, like, our phone does nothing but stress us out. Like, it's a great place for connection, but we don't realize internally what it's actually doing. So try to ease into your day. Give yourself the grace, get your eyes on some sunlight, hydrate your body, and see, and then I guess the next thing would be like, have a little bit of a wind down routine. Send that message even 30 minutes before. Okay, I deserve to be comfortable right now. And do the simple things. Those little habits grow and they get bigger and stronger.
And you begin to crave them, those little
Mhm.
things. Like
Yeah, they become ritual.
they really do. And I've established a pretty solid morning routine. It's something that I genuinely cherish and look forward
Mhm.
to. So it's not like a chore. It's not like, oh, I
Right.
have to get up earlier so that I can, because I have to
Oh,
do the
no.
Bible reading or I have to do the thing. I just love doing it so much. So I want to
Yes.
get up to do that thing.
Right. I would
And
never tell anyone to get up an hour early to do all like, no, you get up when you
right.
get up, but just what is the first thing you're doing when you get like, yeah,
Yeah. And just like integrating things that are really genuinely things that are going to support you.
before you.
That
Yeah.
you like doing. I know, like, they say the same thing with exercise. Find exercises that you actually like, find the movement that you like
Right.
doing.
Yeah.
It changes everything. Like,
Everything.
so just not looking from the perspective of it, this is like another thing on the
Another
list,
thing.
but
Yeah.
it's a
And
privilege.
habits stack.
Yeah.
If you're setting up your coffee in the morning, maybe do like a light stretch, like grab your hands behind your back and just stretch for a second or take a deep breath while you're standing there waiting anyway, instead of grabbing for your phone. Right. Like anytime there's downtime, we're waiting in line, we're waiting for something where it's the phone right in our faces.
Mhm.
So habit stack with something a little bit more supportive than stressful.
That is a great tip. Yeah, just a
That's
couple
hard to
deep
do.
breaths. Like, been
Yeah.
focusing
Oh
a lot
yeah.
on that and just like 3 deep breaths
Yeah.
can instantly calm you down and just make you
Yeah.
feel more grounded. It's
Right.
amazing. You can do that while you're waiting in line. You can do it at a
Yeah.
red light. It's
Yes. I've actually flipped that switch. So, because I get myself like where I'm always in a rush. Now I say like if I'm like even in traffic, like I'm at a red light and I really need to move, I'm like, okay, here's my chance to breathe. Even in the morning when I'm like waiting for my shower water to warm up, I'll do like a quick breath or stretch or something like restorative. So like link it to those moments of that you're panicked and just
yes.
so
Oh, love it. I love it. Last question. Do you have any favorite resources? Maybe you do. I didn't ask you this ahead of time, but any favorite resources like books or websites or podcasts like that you can think of off the top of your head that have been really
gosh.
helpful to you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love your honestly, I'm not just like plugging you here, but all of your podcasts that focus on simplicity and decluttering have been like super helpful for me because I don't think how we've just gotten in such a world of like clutter everywhere. So
Mhm.
your podcasts are super helpful. There what I have to get the name for this. I think it might have been the Huberman podcast on sleep. That was a really great one. I'm in the middle of reading Dr. Peter, his book called Outlive. That's a great book on just like your health and stuff.
Okay,
But
great.
overall, I've gotten better of navigating Instagram and the wellness world and not just falling prey to like wellness influencers and following the true, get down to the basics. Like anything that sounds too crazy, good to be true, too extreme, I've learned to just kind of weed out. So I don't know if that really answers your question. I can't think of anything
Yeah,
on the
no, it's
spot.
helpful. No, that's great. And if you think of anything, I can always throw it in the show notes
Yeah.
too. So And as we wind down, I always like to ask my guests, what is your favorite way to slow down right now?
Hmm. Yeah, I need a lot of that. Like my business just life just gets crazy for me March and April, and I'm like have to mindfully practice slowing down. So probably two ways. Number one is they're like non-negotiables is my walk. In the morning, I walk my girls to school and I just do a little extra loop. And then I try once the weather's nice, I've been doing it is my evening walk right after dinner. So, I mean, that's great in the morning because it just helps me to process my nervous energy in the morning. But in the evening, it's a really great way to wind down. That's part of my wind down routine, but it's also great for helping your glycemic, get like your blood sugar, benefiting my sleep. And then I had mentioned swapping out scrolling for reading. I love reading now to the point where my husband gets jealous because I'm always reading. He's like, "Are you reading another book?" Um, but finding a good book, like, for me, is like an escape. Like, I love to read. I wish I loved to read as much when I was, like, in middle and high school and college as I do now.
Yep, I am the same way. I am the same way. I always have a couple books going at the same time too.
Yeah.
I just
Yes.
jump into all
Yep.
these.
So I had, like, my Dr. Peter Attia book, and then I have my, like, pleasure reading. I'm in a
Yep.
book club. But that for me has been really my way to, like, I 9 o'clock, 8:30 rolls around, 9 o'clock, the girls go to bed, I open my book. Like, it is my pleasure. And then Saturday mornings, if we don't have sports to rush off, we do like book look, like, "Mommy's reading for the first half hour, please don't interrupt." And they still
Such
do.
a good role model. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. I love
Oh my
that.
god.
That's a great idea. Oh, Gina, it's always a pleasure. We will have you back to talk about lots more things in the coming months for sure. Just let everybody know. I'll put in the show notes, but where can everybody find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Simply Balance with Gina. I do, like I said, I do lots of cooking on there,
She does
recipes.
the best recipes. I'm not a cook, but I feel like I can make them and they're always delicious and
Aw,
healthy and
good.
just fun and beautiful to look at and all of it. So, yes,
Aw,
love it.
thank you. Yeah, I try to keep it simple because most of my clients don't cook or know how to, and I want to make it realistic. So yeah, that's the main place you can find me. I do have a website. Everything I do is Simply Balance with Gina. So it's www.simplybalancegina.com. So yeah, that's basically where.
Wonderful. I will link it all and I visit all of it often, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners do too. So, thank you for sharing your wonderful insights on sleep. And I hope that everyone gets a really good night's sleep after this
Yes.
episode. Thanks for
I
being
love-
here, Gina.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for listening, everyone.
I hope you've enjoyed our journey together. Please take a moment to rate and review the show. It really helps us grow and reach others looking to slow down too. Wishing you simplicity and ease in your world, and I'll see you back here next week.